So hello everyone, I'm of course Rose Pants here doing an online book club for 1984. Today we are discussing the pages 93 to 148, and it is actually like the official start of part 2 for this book. Let's see, get the chat right next to it. Okay, so we start part 2 of 1984, and let's see, let me go back to my note where we end. My last note was the woman from the fiction department is there outside when he came out of the little antique store, and we were wondering if she was really following him, or was it just Winston being paranoid? He thought maybe someone was watching him. So yeah, jumping right in, we go right back there. The girl with dark hair stages a fall at work in the little hallway. Like, I don't know, I'm imagining like cubicles, offices slash business building, like pretty typical. So they're just walking past each other, and she stages a fall, and it's pretty obvious that she did it on purpose, because even though they don't exchange any direct glances or looks, there is an exchange where she slips a piece of paper into his hand. The note just simply says, "I love you," which at first you're like, what? That's kind of really fucking random. Because we're only associating her so far as the girl with dark hair. Like, we literally know nothing about her, but she loves Winston apparently. Let's see. So after the incident with the note, it took an entire week to be able to communicate again, or even like respond to the note in general, because there are those like what are they called? The Telecaster, the telescreens are everywhere, and they're just constantly under surveillance. And even just like a slight glance or look that is more meaningful will set off the thought police, unfortunately. um, so eventually they managed to meet in one of the open square type areas in town, and they plan to have a more of an escaped rendezvous away from telescreens and all of that. Apparently, you learn very quickly that the girl with dark hair has a much like wider spread and knowledge on the area of London and outskirts of just like the basic city itself and where Winston stays. Um, so they do successfully make it out, and we learn that the dark-haired woman is named Julia. And right away on page 107. So at first with Julia, you don't really know what to think about her, but then instantly once they finally get out of town and they're actually able to talk and have a conversation, you instantly really like this character. And on page 107, she responds to Winston with, "I expect I'm better at finding things out than you are." Totally can't even read. "I expect I'm better at finding things out than you are, dear. Tell me, what did you think of me before that day I gave you the note?" You instantly have this feel that she is a lot more perceptive to everything that's going on. And even though throughout this whole half of the book we realize that Winston is himself like pretty independent thinking, Julia just takes it to a whole another level, and she's way more interesting. Let me see. Oh, I guess a page 110 quote stuck out to me is my next note that I have. The bird. Okay, on page 110 it says, "For whom, for what was the bird singing? No mate, no rival was watching it. What made it sit at the edge of the lonely wood and pour its music into nothingness?" So, I mean, it's just like in the part of the book where Winston and Julie are just hanging out in this little like secluded wooded area, and there is just a moment where a bird is singing and there's nothing else around it. But this quote just really stuck out to me, and it's like the concept of singing to no one, like even though no one may be listening, um, there's still an inherent good in that song that you're singing, and that's the reason why you're singing. See. Oh yeah, I also said if you're going against the rules, there is still an inherent good in the singing itself, and that makes the risk worth it. So pretty much Winston and Julia spend that entire afternoon together. They also have sex, and sex they consider it a political act, and that they're like really going against the grain. And they refer to it as it's a mix of fear and hatred, which is really odd. Let's see. So they continue to see each other after this initial meeting, but they only are able to have sex once more because they just can only see each other in public, essentially. Julia calls it thinking by installments because they're just able to meet up really randomly for like half an hour at a time in a public square and just talk about whatever they need to at that specific moment. Let's see. So it's like at this part, they're finally really, really going against the grain and rebelling. Like Julia and Winston have become this couple essentially, and they're continuously breaking laws, and they know what they're doing is wrong essentially. So over on page 114, this quote stuck out to me. It said, "It paid," she said. "It was camouflage. If you kept the small rules, you could break the big ones." So, where's it going with that? Oh, it's just a great example of civil disobedience and Julia's whole attitude towards the party and how she's going to live her life. And she's pretty badass in general, for sure. Um, she just really does not care at all what little rules that she's breaking within the party, because there is that level of civil disobedience, and there's what she's doing isn't really necessarily wrong in her mind, and that's pretty parallel to what is going on today, definitely. So let's see. After the talking about installments, I mean, honestly, it just like keeps going on, and you learn more and more about Julia and who she is as a person, where she came from. You learn about her grandfather. 17. So there's this weird quote on page 116. "Life as she saw it was quite simple. You wanted," this is from Julia's point of view, "you wanted a good time. They," meaning the party, "wanted to stop you having it. You broke the rules as best you could, so she seemed to think that it's just natural that they should want to rob you of your pleasures, as you should want to avoid being caught." So it's just this constant, like, tug and pull where you're going to want to break rules, and they're need to avoid getting caught, of course, but at the same time, the party is going to be continuously wanting to stop you, even though you have that drive within you where you're not going to stop, obviously. They go back into the subject of sex and like the party's real control over that aspect in everyone's life, and it's just kind of fucking mind-blowing. And if our government, for any reason, should ever go there in the places that this book does, then we know that we are really fucked and they're trying to do just like complete mind control over us. Let me see. So it's on page 117. Say it was not merely the sex instinct created. Wait, what? It was not merely that the sex instinct created a world of its own, which was outside the party's control, and which therefore had to be destroyed if possible. The party realizes that sex is something that they don't have a full control over. They realize this, and then that makes them want to control it even more, which is so weird. Yeah, just terrifying. So they just go on and they want to change sex and how the party wants it to make you feel. They want to make that switch where the system changed for a new generation, and then because it was this whole revolution, the generation changed and then it did become normalized, and children grew up not knowing anything different, and so they would even turn in their parents and like act as little mini thought police. If they saw their parents were doing something that went against the party, they would just go and like rat them out instantly. Okay. So then we switch for like the rest of this whole chunk. You see, like after, so from like page 120 to like the rest of the section where we end on page 148, is it? Yeah. The whole rest of this section pretty much focuses back on to Julia and Winston and their relationship together. They realize that their system of meeting isn't really super successful. They're only able to have what she refers to as thinking by installments. So they figure out finally something solid, a system that's going to work, and they use Mr. Charrington's room that's upstairs. It's that like antique store that Winston had gone into a few times. It's where he had purchased the diary, and so this is going to be a key factor for the rest of this book now that they have like an official hideout somewhere that's super safe and there's no telescreens. So pretty much it's just a lot of them spending time in this room in specific, and of course they're breaking all sorts of rules. Julia is able to find makeup and perfume, and she says she knows where to get clothes and even high heels as well. And she's so super excited by this because everyone in this society wears the same thing, and they're like super bland overalls. And so she's really, really excited by the fact that she can feel like a real woman instead of just a party member, like blank face. There's nothing really to her. So that was a huge moment for sure. But then also at the same time kind of surprising coming from Julia because I didn't expect her to be so feminine. I thought she was gonna like be that strict badass, but it's nice that she's got levels for sure. Then super randomly out of the blue, they bring up Winston has this serious fear of rats, where they're, because obviously this antique store, this upstairs bedroom, it's pretty shabby. They're always constantly talking about how there's bugs and stuff. And just randomly a rat scurries by and Winston freaks the fuck out and even tells Julia that he has constant nightmares where it's like a reoccurring one specific nightmare, and I don't know, super random, but of course you know that this is going to have a huge play in the future of the book. Why would they even bring it up if it's not important? So it's like something that just sticks in your brain. You're like, all right, let's put a little post-it note on that because it's going to come up later. Another super random thing that was revealed is that they don't have fruit, and they could barely even conceive what lemons were, and they're like, oh yeah, I think that they were so sour that like they made your teeth hurt, and they'd only like slightly heard of an orange and knew that it had a really thick peel. And that just made me really sad because I love fruit so much personally. And for me, that is like a huge telltale sign of you're in a really shitty revolution. Your government has way too much control if you don't have access to fresh food. And fruit is obviously like the first thing that's going to go because it's so perishable and sensitive and delicious. Oh god, these poor people don't even know what oranges are. Man, so like three things, bam, bam. So fucking, we just like get hit with these three random things after the book is kind of like goes into a lull. You know, you're going through the story, you're learning more about Julia, and then these three crazy things happens. Like first with the rat fear, and then they don't have fruit, and then the guy that I don't know how to pronounce his name, if it's Smee or Smy, but he's gone. He's disappeared. Winston goes to work one day. Some like one or two people like slightly mention like through the hallways that he's gone, and then I guess there is an announcement with a chess club and all of the members' names. His name is just gone. The picture looks exactly the same, but he's not there. They like is he never existed. They just removed him. So then we go back to the upstairs room. They are super safe there. It's like truly safe because they even mention that they're able to meet 7 times a month. Whereas before, when they were going to that outside little enclosed area where they had to go one way but then go back another way and then could only go like once or maybe twice a month. And then Julia was super paranoid about it and was like, no, maybe we should go not even in a month, but like in 2 months. She wanted to wait. So this room obviously means so much more now that they're able to meet so often, because you even knew before that they had super opposite schedules, and even that was a huge deal with them trying to create a schedule and go back and forth and meet each other on the regular. There's this really powerful paragraph where you realize that Julia has truly given Winston a new way of life, and that he has like increased his happiness in so many different ways. And like there's certain health things that have like completely disappeared. Like in the beginning of the book, every single time that he would wake up, he had this horrible cough, and now that cough just happens to be gone. And so I don't know, it's very sweet that this relationship between Julia and Winston is just constantly evolving, and evolving in a great way, obviously. Let me see, there's page 134. So obviously Winston has this connection to Julia, and they are thinking of possible futures together even. So it's on page 134. It says, to hang on from day to day and from week to week, spinning out a present that had no future, seemed an unconquerable instinct, just as one's lungs will always draw the next breath, so as long as there's air available. So it was like, as long as they're alive, they're going to try and keep it going, whatever they're doing. They're going to fucking make it work, just because it's that innate instinct that's not going to go away. Our the connection between our lungs and brains is so pure that if there is air available, our lungs, we're just gonna breathe. That's what we do. So fucking they're like this now. Fucking Winston and Julia. So yeah, so their relationship with themselves grows. They're constantly thinking of ways to go against the party and kind of rebel. There's this quote on 135 I underlined. Moreover, she took it for granted that everyone, or nearly everyone, secretly hated the party and would break the rules if thought it was safe to do so. And I thought that was a total parallel for society today. And the fact that a lot of people don't feel like it's safe to like speak up and say that they don't agree with what's going on, and that is kind of like terrifying. It's a huge way for them to stay in power and have this hold over us because we don't feel like it's safe to speak up. And that's what the party has successfully accomplished in this book, and I feel like in certain ways our society today has done that. They're just like constantly trumping us and making us feel like we have no power when we could be so much more powerful than we ever imagine. They really lay it in the power and the hold that the party has in general. On 137 it says, history has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. Because they're constantly rewriting history and changing things and making it to perceive this picture they want, and they're just constantly tweaking it and making it whatever they want. Exactly. Hi Rolla J. Hello, hello. Thank you for watching. Let me see how we're doing on time. Yeah, we're doing okay. We're almost done here. Because, yeah, I just quoted something from 137. We're only reading to 148 today. So, we're discussing 148. You should have already read it, let's be honest. A major thing happens between Winston and O'Brien. We kind of, like, reading through this chunk, I had totally forgotten about the character O'Brien and his importance in this book and what's going to happen with the future in him. Let me see. So O'Brien stops him. They're in work, and he stops him and is like, "Oh, I really liked this article that you wrote last week, but you used two words that aren't going to be in existence anymore. I've got this like on the down low copy of the 10th edition of the new dictionary I can give you. Here's my address. Like, come pick it up sometime." So obviously it's like they're at work, they make it super on the surface. Oh, you're using these words that won't exist soon. I'm gonna help you out. We're comrades and all that. But then you know that there's something underlying there, and there's something way more that's gonna happen. But you don't know exactly what. And of course, that's like one of the most fun parts about reading and makes you want to continue reading. So that was super exciting. Then towards the end, there's like this revelation in Winston's mind, and like a memory of his is unlocked with his mom. For some reason, the party had convinced him that he murdered his mother, and he finally has this like unlocked memory where he runs away. He runs away after this instant where he goes through the whole story, but essentially you see Winston as a child. He's super greedy. There's a ration of chocolate that comes in. Mom wants to go split it into thirds so they can share it with his sister, Winston, and the mother. They can all have a piece. Winston freaks out and is like, "No, I need all the chocolate." And then Mom's like, "No, dude, you can't have all the chocolate." So she splits it, snatches it from the sister, and then runs away. And you don't really know what his motivation for that was. I mean, you can infer things for sure. Someone's asking what page now. Let me see. When he's talking about his mom. It starts on page 141 when he wakes up and he's got tears in his eyes from this dream that he just had and like this memory that's unlocked. So he realizes obviously he did not murder his mom, but after he runs away and he comes back, both of his mom and his sister have completely disappeared, and he has no idea what happened. Even her overcoat is still at the house. Everything looks exactly the same. The only thing that is different is just the two people are gone. He doesn't know if she ended up in a work labor camp or if she's alive, dead, whatever. But he knows that he didn't murder her, which is crazy that he even had that in his mind to begin with. But again, it's a just huge example of how crazy powerful the party is, and like the grasp that they can have on your own brain. Pretty terrifying. Let's see. So we're almost done the section that we're reading for now. End it. Oh, so Julia and Winston are back to talking about their future and their options, and it would Winston kind of gets down to the point of like they've been really lucky so far, and this is only going to last so long. He thinks it can only last maybe 6 months, like maybe a year, and then eventually the party's going to catch them, torture them, and have them confess. But then Winston says, I don't mean confessing. Confession is not betrayal. What you say or do doesn't matter. Only feelings matter. If they could make me stop loving you, that would be the real betrayal. She thought it over, meaning Julia. They can't do that, she said finally. It's the one thing they can't do. They can't make you sit. They can make you say anything, but they can't make you believe it. They can't get inside of you. No, he said a little more hopefully. No, that's quite true. They can't get inside of you. If you can feel that staying human is worthwhile, even when it can't have any result whatsoever, you've beaten them. So they're just going back and forth, and it's like this true struggle, like, can they break you? And then ending on page 148 is this terrifying quote that is kind of true with our society today. It says, perhaps that was less true when you were actually in their hands. Meaning, maybe they can get inside of you once you're actually, I mean, in this situation, it's the ministry of love. Like, that's where they take you to torture you and make you confess and all that fun stuff. But it's kind of the same thing now with, like, the NSA leak, and they're constantly looking at us and everything that we're doing, and then our law changes where they can legally take us and question us and not Mirandize us. Maybe they would be able to eventually get inside of our brains, and that is fucking terrifying. So unfortunately, that is where our chapter ends off for today, with that horrifying thought. So yeah, happy Sunday with that, or whenever you're watching this later, if you're watching it uploaded on YouTube. But yeah, my last note, so it's like I always write notes when I'm reading so I know what I should be saying or talking about in this live show here. And my last note is, the party can't get inside of you, ... yet, question mark. So I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you joined me with the live show, thank you even more. You guys are fucking awesome. And of course, this will be uploaded to YouTube later. Let me see, for next week, next Sunday, we're going to be reading pages, I mean, it kind of ended in a half page on 148, so like 149, and we're ending on 200. So 2 more little sections of the book and we'll be all done. So again, we're reading pages 149 to 200, and I will see you guys then. Bye!